We recently sent out a tweet and we had someone very cool come by the house, the founder of Adapty. What's Adapty?
Adapty is essentially a payment provider that allows multiple mobile apps all across the world to be able to charge their users and do subscriptions or one-time payments. What's super cool is that they actually have tracked $1.2 billion, not just once, but every single year.
So someone like that probably has a lot of interesting nuggets or some interesting facts that, people as just normal app founders probably don't know. I don't know. I'm next token generating. So he probably knows a lot of things that, us two app founders don't know.
Yeah, man, for sure. I learned a lot. So here's our chat with Vitaly. Well, thank you, Vitaly, for coming.
Thank you so much.
I think the first question I want to ask is, or people may want to know, a lot of people do know, what is Adapty?
Well, the first question is, how many people know what Adapty is?
Hands up.
Can you hands up a little bit higher? All right, maybe a quarter or so. So we are building a revenue management platform for mobile apps with subscriptions. Basically, it's an SDK for every platform for mobile apps, which helps you to quickly integrate any kind of monetization to any mobile application. But it's more importantly, it helps you to optimize payments in Stripe, iOS payments, Android, whatever you use, with paywalls, integrations, LTV predictions, revenue predictions, and so on.
All right, cool. And a question I always want to ask is kind of like, how do you get into building Adapty? Like, what is it? Is it currently what you always thought it would be, or has there been changes along the way?
I think it's like, it's kind of an interesting story because it's my second company. The first company was just a consulting in software engineering, so it was far away from building software products or something like this. And around 7 years ago, I was building my own mobile apps. Actually, it was an app for language learning. That's why I can speak now, and you probably can understand me, even with a strong accent, right? And we were probably one of the first applications in the App Store who started monetizing application with subscriptions. It saved the business. It was crucially important, so it saved the whole company. And back in 2015, it was a wild west, so no notifications for current renewals. IDFA is widely available as well as device ID, so you can buy traffic. Like you can use a single creative, just send all the data to ad network. It's going to bring you more people. So I think our LTV to CAC ratio was something like 20x in 1 year with one creative. So you never need to test anything. It was really fun. And like I'm in software engineering, and I was responsible for optimizing our language flow. So basically my task was to build a recommendational model that's going to suggest a user 10 new words to learn every day. It was the idea of the application. And then I built a really nice model, but then I realized there is no correlation with revenue. Fucking insane. And so I've spent a year to build a great model, but then I realized that like 30% or 50% increase in model quality does not correlate with the customer LTV, which was extremely awkward. And then we started to analyze, and basically we realized that 90% of customers subscribed during surprise onboarding, and then they just keep paying for, I don't know for what reason.
I think that's so interesting because like even originally, so my kind of like quick background is originally in banking, then after start my own VC-backed startup, ran it for 4.5 years, ended up failing and closing down. And then I was just like, hey, let me lick my wounds by creating apps and see whether that works. And that's something I learned the hard way because my first app, I was kind of like, oh, let me give the user as much value as possible. And only after they've gotten that much value, then I'll do the paywall. And conversion was not great at all. And then I kind of seen people do it in onboarding. I was like, oh, this can't be true, whatever. And it started working. And I think this leads on to my next question because something else that me and James found we did by mistake actually. So we realized the more times you show the user a paywall, the higher likelihood of conversion from that user. And there's kind of like skippable paywalls and unskippable paywalls itself.
Yeah.
So I mistakenly did an unskippable paywall before onboarding itself.
So it's literally the first screen in the application.
Literally, and then like conversion went up, and I'm just like, wait, what's going on? And I remember speaking to James. I was like, oh, what happened? Like, is there some maybe new traffic that kind of came
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
all that kind
yeah.
of stuff. And then we checked our placement, and it was like, oh yeah, the before onboarding was the one
Yeah.
actually giving us a conversion. So is there like any other kind of unique things that you've seen at mobile apps that most people don't realize?
Well, I think you're exactly right. Like most people start paying or subscribing before trying an application. This is extremely crucial. But I think it all works to some limit. So I think you can build an app, maybe, I don't know, 5 million ARR or something like this with this approach. But if you want to build it to, let's say, 100 million or 50 million ARR, you need to start bringing some long-term retention or something like this. So yeah, if you want to just hustle and build an app with 3-4 million ARR, you can do this just with the simple onboarding. I believe so.
And in terms of, so there's millions and millions of apps in the
Yeah.
App Store. A lot of them earn zero at all.
Yeah.
And some of them earn money, right? So what's kind of like the difference maybe in mindset change or maybe just in the app itself, how it's presented that you see?
Well, it's a great question, actually. I think that there are multiple ways how you can acquire traffic. So the first obvious way is ASO, right? So you can optimize for keywords and do all this kind of stuff. That's good, but it's extremely limited. And basically, yeah, you can bring some amount of new customers. It's going to be almost free. Currently, if you want to bid on high frequency keywords, you need to buy this traffic somewhere. It's called motivated traffic, which is kind of expensive. Then you have paid ads. I've been doing paid ads for maybe 3-4 years, and it worked great for us back in 2015, 2016. Again, 20x LTV to CAC ratio. It was insane. Basically, we were printing money. And then I think the new trend is that you can use TikTok influencers and this kind of stuff. This is something extremely new to us, and we see like quite a good amount of our customers, they use TikTok acquisition. They pay some, I don't know, like $2,000 per month and then turn it into 200K in MRR. I saw a lot of such cases, but it's something new.
And in terms of like, I get a lot of people asking me, should I do a trial? If it's a trial, is it 3 days or 7 days
Yeah.
or 10 days?
Yeah.
Should I do a hard paywall? What are you seeing is kind of like the meta at the moment?
Well, it depends, right? So that's probably what I can say is that it depends, and it depends not on the application, but it depends on the traffic. I think it depends on the traffic. It means the audience, like what age you acquire, what gender you acquire, what people are doing, and so on. So it really depends. But I think if you do free trial, just make it as short as possible. Because we did some kind of testing and we analysis, and we realized that there is no difference between 3 days and 7 days free trial.
Okay.
3 is currently the shortest one.
Okay, cool. And I guess the biggest news that's come out in the whole app industry is Apple.
Yeah.
And essentially being able to do purchases outside.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
can you give us some more information about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite an interesting thing because when they released it, I was like, maybe it's going to kill the business, right? Because Adapty is currently used by something around 12,000 mobile apps. And we do around 1.5 to 2 billion in GMV from subscription apps every year, which kind of probably not the largest numbers, but it's quite okay. And I was like, well, it's going to kill the business. It was my first thought when I saw it last week. But then I started to chat with some of our big customers who make more than 10 million in ARR. And guess what? No one said they're going to switch. No one. And I think the reason for this is it doesn't solve the core problem. And the core problem is the attribution, right? So again, you can still use ASO. It's going to bring you some users, but it doesn't scale. So you want to use paid user acquisition. To use paid user acquisition, you need an attributional data. It doesn't solve it, right? And from what we see, the average refund rate could be from 2 to 5% in average mobile application, and Stripe will kick you out of the platform for such refund rate.
Yeah.
That's a problem, yeah. So if your refund rate is above 1%, Stripe will kick you out of the App Store.
Yeah, I've had a lot.
Sorry, from the platform.
From the platform. Yeah, I've had a lot of friends who have like Stripe stores, and
Yeah.
like, they started growing like crazy. And then just because I think we've got to like 1.5, 1.7%,
Yeah.
Stripe starts off by like locking your funds sometimes, and then soon after, kind of like, oh yeah, we can't use you anymore.
Yeah, and I think like, all right, you're gonna pay 3%, maybe a little bit more for Stripe. Then you're gonna pay for chargeback service. You need to rebuild your technical stack. even if you use us or some of our competitors, you still need to rebuild the whole stack from scratch. You need to do all these kind of integrations from scratch. It doesn't solve the problem with the attribution. It's either going to be, if you're small, let's say you make less than $1 million per year, so you pay 15% to Apple. We calculated that roughly you're going to pay the same amount if you use Stripe, but you got more risks because Apple will not block you for refunds or chargebacks or for anything else. If you're above 1 million, there may be some benefits, but you're going to probably win maybe 5 to 7%, which could be a lot, but yeah. Unless you're building ChatGPT with the 100 million of MRR, I think the 5% is not that much compared to the risk that you take.
Okay, cool. And how did things look internally from, I feel like in the last 8 months to a year, AI apps have just taken a huge spike so far. So how did things look internally, like analytics-wise from your side?
You mean how many apps we get every month?
Exactly, yeah.
It's quite an interesting question because I don't track the number of apps. I only track GMV. And I think every year we increase so we grow 3x year over year, sometimes 4x, which kind of okay, but it could have been 10x, I think, if we didn't make any big mistakes. From GMV, I think we grow roughly 2 to 3x.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think like App Store is extremely diverse place. So there's a huge tail of applications who make less than $100 per year, while we try, obviously because our business model is revenue sharing, so we try to focus on folks who make money or help those who want to make money. So I don't try to count the number of applications, I try to count the GMV.
Cool, and how do you currently help the folks, the long tail that want to make money but currently aren't?
We have free plan. We have free plan. We produce tons of educational materials. We have like podcasts, videos, tutorials, guides. So we released one of the ebook, how to start your subscription app from 0 to 1K per month, which is kind of like just first baby steps on how you optimize and how you do first steps. Works quite good. A little bit later this year, maybe in June, we're going to launch slightly different pricing. So now we have a fixed fee. So if you want to use us, you need to pay some small fixed amount, but then we get rid of it in June.
Okay.
It's going to be completely revenue sharing.
All right, cool. And tell me about FunnelFox.
Well, FunnelFox is cool. How many of you heard of FunnelFox? One? FunnelFox, not Firefox.
FunnelFox, yeah.
How many of you heard of Web to App? One. You heard of FunnelFox and not of Web to App. How is possible?
I probably heard the other one too, I just forget it.
Okay. So I just want to return to your question about third-party payments in the App Store. So basically, I think now you have 3 options on how you can monetize your subscription business, subscription application. First, you keep using your native iOS application with the native Apple payments. So you pay 15 to 30% commission, just a standard way. The second option is that you add third-party payments. So you do exactly the same, but you pay, because your customers pay via Stripe or Apple Pay or I don't know, whatever is supported. And the third option is, remember I told that 80 to 90% of customers subscribe without even trying the application during onboarding. So the simple idea is that you take your onboarding, you build a super simple website where you put your onboarding to, and then instead of landing your traffic to your application, you land your traffic to a simple website. Then your customers go through the quiz or onboarding process in the browser. Then it ends up with a paywall where a customer can subscribe with Apple Pay, and then you redirect them back to the application. Right? So it's called Web to App because it starts with a web browser, so every purchase happens outside of the App Store. And then you redirect the customer back to mobile application. So Spotify, Netflix, all big tech companies, they subscribe you outside of the App Store because they don't want to pay 30% of their revenue. So we've built a product to launch Web to App funnels in 1 hour and synchronize subscribers with the Adapty SDK. So basically, if you have a mobile app and you're like, all right, I got some limit in my user acquisition and want to try something new, you'll launch a Web to App funnel with us. Basically, you open a Stripe account, we help you. We even have AI generation for web to app funnel, so you don't need to build it yourself. I can show it a little bit later. So you build a funnel, you deploy it to us. You don't need to use Supabase or Firebase or whatever. You deploy it with us, with your custom domain. You build a Stripe paywall with us, or we generate it for you. Your customers pay, and they automatically get access to premium features in your mobile app.
Yeah, I think just to even push more on that fact is, it may seem like such like a simple thing, but from the user's perspective,
Yeah.
it's kind of like from them seeing your ad, having to click, go to the app store, install, wait 30 seconds, open the app, then go through onboarding before then they ask to be paid. So it's kind of like lots of many steps.
Yeah, so the funnel is extremely long.
Extremely. However, if it's like web and it's like essentially like a web view that opens
Yeah.
up when I'm on Instagram itself, I can just quickly go through it and pay itself without having to kind of come off platform, which I think is something that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so this thing is not regulated by Apple, obviously, because it happens in your browser and outside of the App Store, so you can charge your customer however you want. But you have a responsibility. Again, you have a problem with the refunds or chargebacks, so it's up to you on how you manage your customer subscriptions. You need to build a subscriber center or use Stripe's version, something like this. But if you take Adapty's 10 largest customers, all of them make over 50 million per year, only from mobile, but they generate 80% of their company revenue from web to app. So basically, the customer who makes 50 million makes 5 times more in web.
Damn, I said I didn't know that.
So are you saying 40 mil of that is
No.
that, or that's separate? So they're not
200.
200.
So if we see a revenue around
only see
50,
50.
yeah, we see 50, it means they generate in the web around 200.
Are they gaming apps or?
No.
That is
Because gaming is hard. Like, I think my approach for gaming is that, well, they almost never use subscriptions. If it's maybe World of Warcraft use subscriptions, but it's old school stuff. Mobile gaming don't use subscriptions because they're afraid of hurting the unit economy, right? Because if you have whales, they're going to subscribe. For subscription, you probably give discount for some skins or one-time purchases, and so it's going to ruin the economy. And so gaming is hard, but it's for subscription business. One of our customer, they even didn't have an app. So they only started to do web to app, web to nothing, web to PDF or whatever. And I think in 1 year, they grew to around 8 to 10 million ARR.
This is all ad-based. This is all Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. Because I think the modern app business is not about building a really cool application. Yeah, you need to build a cool application, but what's more important is you need to build a really cool creative campaign and all this kind of stuff. It's kind of a different approach. Like in the past 7 years, it turned out, like 7 years ago when we were building a mobile application, you can start with any idea and it's going to work, like customers going to love it. But now you have an app for everything. So you need to think about how you're going to acquire customers, right? And yeah, that's the hardest thing.
And I think that's such a great point, because when myself and James first came to SF, we were working out of Founders Inc. And one of the first apps that we built out was something called Trippy, and it was meant to be this kind of like TikTok search for travel, and you can also purchase things, and then so much value and all this kind of things. And then we didn't just see any kind of like good retention or really any kind of, we didn't actually see any revenue from it like at all. And then we were like, okay, cool, let's think on another idea. And the something that we're working on now is something called Prey Screen. Very simple. I think the app has like 3 screens, really. And very simple. It just blocks your apps. You need to pray to unlock it. So simple. This is already native functionality in iOS, right? So we did that and then just focused more on the distribution and the funnels and the marketing side of things. And within like, I think it was a month, we're able to like scale it at 10K a week in revenue itself. So I think it's like, from like the product and developer perspective, you're thinking you need to give so much value before the user even pays anything. But I feel like the user sentiment is kind of like changing, or maybe it was always like this, but people are just realizing now.
Yeah, and I think Apple will never change it, because like Apple's revenue from the App Store is a 2-digit number. It's like 10 to 20%, something like this, right? So they're never going to change it.
Okay, cool. And in terms of, let's talk about A/B testing. So even right now we're A/B testing, and sometimes I'm just like, I'm testing. Is it the design that's wrong? Is
Yeah.
it like, I don't know, is it the placement of the paywall? What's going on? How do you think about A/B testing generally?
Well, I think A/B testing is important. Obviously, like we're a product for A/B testing, and it's super important. But I think A/B testing in the current times is a little bit outdated because where we're moving the product to is a platform called Insights. Basically, now what you do is you're just blindly testing
Yeah.
all data points and just try to extrapolate the results, right? So what we want to build is a platform that's going to suggest you what you want to test, expecting some result. I think that's kind of a modern approach for A/B testing. I think companies like Statsig, they're going to do things like that. Because if you collect a lot of data from other applications and you see the market, you can suggest each company what they should do, right?
I think even like I think everyone talks about paywall A/B testing.
Yeah.
I think there's also, if you know that most users are gonna subscribe
Yeah.
after onboarding, then onboarding should also be A/B tested.
Yeah.
And I've seen you guys have started to do some betas for that.
Yeah, so basically we now have a paywall builder. It's a like graphical thing where you can drag and drop your paywall just like in Framer or Webflow. Works nice, it's native, so it works just like your native Swift application. But what we think is that besides paywall, you have onboarding, and sometimes onboarding influences your conversion much more than the paywall. So it's really important to warm the user before showing the prompt for buying. And so we're doing an onboarding builder and showing the customer end-to-end funnel from the first screen of onboarding to conversion on the paywall. So basically, you can literally calculate ROI of your onboarding.
That's pretty sick. And I think maybe this is maybe a suggestion. I don't know if you guys are doing it. Something I've seen, especially like beauty apps do, and beauty, or at least the founders do, is that one of the questions in there is kind of like, how much do you normally spend on your beauty product? I don't know, whatever it is through there. And if a user selects the most amount through there, then the paywall that's then being shown is basically the highest.
The highest price.
The highest price.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys will be doing as well?
You can do it now.
Oh, okay. See, I'm not using it properly.
If you want to do it, I mean, we have a thing which we I think first introduced like 3 years ago. It's called segments. So you can send to Adapty any custom user attribute, then build a segment from these users attributes. Let's say you want to show some specific paywalls to all males or females or to whatever and change an image on a paywall. You just create a segment and then link it to a paywall and it's going to show dynamically, and that's it.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I need to try
And you
that.
don't need to do an Apple release for it, so it's all done dynamically in the mobile app.
That's pretty sick.
But again, I think what is more important is, yeah, you can do all this kind of stuff, but from our point of view, the most value where we can give is to understand, hey, like it seems like you have quiz because you use our onboarding builder. We collect your answers of your users. We can build segments for you, and we can say, hey, it feels like for males in the US, you want to bump the price a little bit, so it's going to increase your LTV by 10 or 20%. So ideally, what we want to build is a one-button experience where you send us a link to your application, and we're going to do all the rest. So you open admin panel, you just swipe on paywalls or onboardings left or right, whether you like it or not. You select, we generate paywalls for you, we generate pricing for you. You say, all right, that looks nice. Click on button, we're going to test it overnight, predict the LTV, and then you iterate again and again. So instead of going to the App Store Connect, create SKUs, select pricing, and so on, we want to build it one-button experience. So basically, the less you open Adapty panel, the better. That's what we want to do.
I think something I've seen Apple, I wouldn't say crack down on, but just something interesting is that there's something I learned maybe like 8 months ago called it like an abandoned cart paywall, which essentially is like you show the user the paywall, they skip, then you show them some kind of promotional price straight away. So I think a few people, also even myself, has had Apple message to be like, oh, we think you're trying to manipulate the user,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. Is there kind of any workaround around that, or is it just like, just resubmit again?
Honestly, I think like Apple's rules are really unpredictable. So sometimes you see really crazy things. So I think like a year ago, I saw Strava selling outside of the App Store, right inside the mobile app. I mean, how is it possible? A year ago, right? Can you imagine Strava linked me to third-party payments a year ago, which was extremely illegal in the App Store. And this thing you're talking about is also illegal, but I see a lot of applications doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you never know. Like, I think it depends on the mood of the reviewer. So just like when you cross the border with the United States. So it really depends on the mood of some of the officer.
Yeah. Honestly, I've had some times where like I'm just going back and forth with Apple review.
Yeah.
And sometimes I resubmit
The same stuff.
the same thing
Exactly.
and it gets approved.
Yeah.
And I'm just
exactly.
like, oh, cool, great.
So if you know that you don't have any hardcore problems inside your mobile app, you just resubmit the same stuff. It's probably going to work second time. Maybe change the color of some button. So just resubmit the same thing and that's it.
All right,
It's
cool.
really weird. I know, but I think it may gonna change if you're gonna use third-party payments. That's the thing. I think if you use and hardly promote Stripe inside your mobile app, I think Apple gonna ruin your mobile app.
Yeah, they're gonna be more strict.
Exactly, and I think like if you take ChatGPT for example, right? Again, an app that makes 100 million per month only from the App Store. So they pay 30 million to Apple every month. 30 million, fucking insane, right? So if they're gonna turn from 30 to 3, they may buy more snacks in the office or whatever they want. So it's a good amount of money they can save. But I think if they're gonna do it, and then Apple will keep them out of the App Store. Right? And then you have Claude, you have Gemini, you have other models, and they're gonna be like Google will not do this. They don't care.
Yeah.
And
You think they'd be that brazen? Is that not a whole other antitrust issue? Where you're
well, Apple can do whatever they want, right? Because it's their Apple Store. They can kick you out of the App Store and then link to some rule because they interpreted it in a way they want.
So you say they just interpret the rule in a more
Yes.
harsh way?
Yeah, because Apple's rules are written in a way that Apple can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple of customers from us, and they were kicked out of the App Store for no reason. Really for no reason. They didn't do any fraud. They didn't do any, nothing, really. Apple just kicked them out of the App Store. And I think if you, talking about third-party payments, I think if you're too small and you pay 15% to Apple, it's totally fine. If you're too big, the risks are extremely high. Again, imagine YouTube being kicked out of the App Store, right? YouTube makes 80% of traffic from mobile, so it's a disaster. And then imagine ChatGPT being kicked out of the App Store. So probably they better paying 27 million a month, but still like generating something.
But would you not have made that same argument about the companies doing web to app and doing 4 times your traffic in web to app?
Well, if it's web to app, it's outside of the App Store. What can they do?
Well, if you're saying that they would selectively enforce the rules dependent on what the app is doing, would they not have just done that with Netflix or any of the other guys doing web to app and being like, we don't want you in here unless you're doing all of your payments through us? No? Maybe I'm misinterpreting it.
I mean, so there are two ways, right? So the first way is when you show the third-party payments inside the application.
Yeah.
This is risky. I think so. So you're going to mess with Apple rules.
Yeah.
If you show third-party payments, so if you have a website, you can sell whatever you want, however you want. And yeah, I think web to app is safe. So all the customers I had a chat with, they said, well, we just keep using web to app and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Or they're going to build PWA or whatever. So
So I want to move more so to like customer support.
yeah.
So this is something that I actually love about Adapty. So when I first started building apps,
Cool.
I started off with Revenue Cat, then moved to Superwall, and then landed in Adapty so far. One of my main reasons was customer support. I mean, with some others, it was basically non-existent. Some other ones are super slow itself. So how do you guys think about customer support? Because I think that's where you guys really shine, to be honest. Because sometimes I message in the chat, and within like, honestly, I swear, like 3 to 5 minutes, they've got a response already. Or at least they've told me, hey, okay, cool, we're looking at it now. We're going to get back to you itself. While some other providers, it's kind of like this black hole. You kind of just messaged you.
And we didn't pay you for these words, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Well, I think, guys, like, I've never been in YC. I've never raised like 50 millions, right? The company started bootstrap. We raised then a small seed round compared to Silicon Valley stuff. And I think now Adapty is probably the fastest growing app in mobile B2B, right? And probably next year or two, we're going to be the biggest in subscription management space if we're going to keep doing things that we do. And so the first 2 years, I've been doing customer support myself, all right? So that's maybe slightly different style to other companies that you mentioned and from typical highly VC-backed company, which is nothing bad about, but it's just our story that we started. So I started Adapty having around $5,000 in my bank account, which was kind of good to start. And yeah, we just cared a lot about retention, about people, about how we chat with the customers and so on. And it's projected to the team now. So we just try to do our best.
Do you have any kind of goals, customer support wise, for the end of the year or yearly?
Yeah, so the company growth now is quite big. Probably, again, the fastest I've ever seen. And we had a lot of people, around 10 to 15 people every month join us, and including customer support. And so this year we switched to a new system called OKR. I don't know if you're familiar with this corporate stuff, but basically a goal-oriented system. And now we have some quantified like plans for improving customer support even more, including like decreasing our response time and so on. So tons of plans.
All right, cool. I think I'm out of questions myself. I'd like to open up to the floor. Does anyone have any questions to ask? Yes?
In terms of wide-coded mobile apps, are you seeing anything interesting? Like, are they reaching the scale that some of the apps that are not wide-coded are?
Yeah, I mean, now I think it's easier than ever to build an app, but harder than ever to actually make money from the app, right? I don't know a single person who made a good amount of money from vibe coding. I know a lot of founders who build an app within a couple of days, but I never know who makes more than $1 million per year, right? Even more than 100K per year. So maybe it's gonna change. There's vibe marketing stuff, which I don't understand, unfortunately. But yeah, I think it's a great stuff. But I think if you want to build a consumer business, you need to figure out the go-to-market. It's the absolutely not of building subscription app. I think even any subscription business now. Yeah, and what is more important that I think is like customer acquisition cost is only going up year over year, all the time. I've never seen it going down, so it's always going up. It means that normally it takes more month so you become break even, right? And you need to build a really good financial model. Maybe again, I'm too old school, but I see a lot of companies who invest like 100K to 200K in mobile app and then just lose everything. And I think understanding how many years or months you want to spend before becoming profitable is super important. And that's our goal for the company is like just you can keep vibe coding and just acquiring customers, and we show you the point of profitability so you actually can get some real money from the mobile app.
So you've thought a lot about mobile onboarding flows.
Yeah.
But you guys are a B2B company and have a website with its own onboarding flow.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how you think about conversion and all that stuff about for your own company.
For our own company.
Yeah.
We're really bad in onboarding. So it sucks. Yeah. Our own onboarding sucks. We want to improve it, but I don't know. We just spend too much time on building features that customers request instead of optimizing our own sales funnel. I don't know. Like we just try to build really great features that customer request instead of polishing our sales funnel for now. Yeah, but our onboarding sucks.
And I actually have a question around that. So where do your customers currently come from, majority? Is it like a word of mouth thing? Is there a specific
I don't
channel?
know. No, honestly, I mean,
Speaking of us.
Yeah.
really, I mean, it's probably word of mouth is a big thing because, again, we haven't raised a lot of money, and we're still growing okay, like more than 3x a year. And for us, it's really important to provide extremely good customer service, right? And so people talk other companies about us and they use us, so that's how we grow. Yeah, probably I need to spend more time on figuring out our marketing team and so on, but yeah, we try to produce high quality content, podcasts, webinars, ebooks. It's all free to download, it's all free to use. We started to do some marketing experiments recently in paid and so on, but it's all just a fraction of like the whole company.
Traffic that's coming in.
Yeah.
This is less about Adapty and more about maybe some insights you might have on aggregate given the position you're in. The consumer funnel and subscription model, my sense is that like any distribution channel over time, people might become fatigued, right? Cold email is a good example, right? It's just inundated with cold emails now and it's much less effective. Have you, at the aggregate level, you said you're doing 2 billion GMV, like, do you think there's a finite amount of consumer dollars in the market that at some point is just going to get saturated? Or do you think that the App Store consumer, I don't know, like the total number of dollars in pockets in the App Store is growing year over year? So that, I suppose what I'm asking is it going to get more difficult over time to the point where like these opportunities, I mean, everyone in this room is building a consumer app at the minute and probably looking at TikTok because TikTok is what Facebook was 10 years ago in terms of like, yeah, how long do people have until that starts to get
You mean like
saturated?
subscription fatigue or something like this,
Yeah,
right?
I mean onboarding, right? Like now everyone's figuring out that getting people to upgrade at onboarding is like how you make the money, but like does that stop at some point? Because I know I've got 15 subscriptions or something and every few months I go in and like, I don't even remember subscribing.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think honestly, I don't have any numbers, but it feels like we're far away from subscription fatigue. And I think like we see. Well, I've just visited Stripe conference, and they said that more and more companies, but it's more for B2B, but I think it's relevant to consumer subscriptions. They are switching to usage-based subscriptions, like Intercom, for example. They switched from seat-based subscriptions to case subscriptions. So you pay per solved cases. Probably in some time you're gonna do similar stuff with your subscription app, right? Instead of paying just $30 for everything, you're gonna pay per something. So users-based or meter-based billing. This is maybe something we can see in the future, but I think for now it just works. And over the time we see more and more GMV from existing customers, which means it works for them. Even apps who started like 10 years ago, they're growing more and more and more and more every year. Yeah. So it still works.
Cool.
It's getting harder to grow, but it still works.
Yep. John?
Lance, how did you find Adapty then?
Oh yeah, good question.
I think I was I must have seen it. I think I was just kind of like subscription for mobile apps, comparison or something. Yeah, I think it was on Google itself. And for me, I'm a huge sucker for UI, like something that just looks easy to use. So I went on that, and like documentation just seemed clean, and also like customer support. So like that was kind of like the kind of key 3 things for me. And then again, I think they were I think more expensive. I remember, but for me, I was like, okay, cool. If I'm gonna make money anyways, it's like then I don't mind paying this extra monthly fee.
That's a good
or whatever it
mindset. I mean, I think it's the same in the same way in many cases. So
is. Exactly. So I was just kind of like, yeah. Let me just kind of try it out and see how it works. So then I just started using them. So that's actually how I found them.
Content's definitely working.
Yeah, because honestly, yeah, I see like a lot of people kind of normally default to revenue cat itself, and I've been there, and my key kind of like gripe myself was just that the charts just was very hard to get them that right kind of data, the cohort data and all that kind of stuff itself. I think like everyone in the space is also improving, but it's one of those ones that once you found your home, it's kind of like, okay, unless you're like 10,000 times better, I'm not going to move anymore because I've already been through so many people itself. So that's essentially how I found Adapty. And again, this is more like a general thing to people. Is like I literally just tweeted at him, and I was just like, hey, you're coming to SF. Do you want to come here? And then we kind of brought everyone here today itself. So it wasn't like, oh, we already knew each other or anything like this is sponsored or anything like this. I just kind of like tweeted into the cold
That's
wild
fun, yeah.
world.
Where are you based?
in London. Yeah, so I literally came 5 days ago, and then he texted me.
Exactly. So that's how things happen. But thank you guys for coming. No more, are there any more questions?
I have one more question.
Okay.
About Nuke.
Not about please don't say nuke anymore. But more about how people
Oh, that's a good question, actually.
And I actually just did it.
Oh, really?
Come up into the second.
Pretty good. Well, I think a couple of weeks ago I researched on how to be ranked higher in ChatGPT and whatever. What I found that if you rank high in Google, you're gonna rank high in ChatGPT. All right, so no magic here. I was thinking you can somehow tweak robots.txt or something like this, so you're gonna rank higher and then optimize your website for ChatGPT crawlers or something like this. No, it doesn't work, as far as I understood. But in general, yeah, like organic works for us quite okay. But we don't do any stuff like buying links or so on. We just try to create really good content. That's it. No magic. And then we track how many minutes or hours, it depends, people read our content, optimize it a little bit, and then so on. But it's hard to do on scale, because when you hire more and more people and they're not from mobile marketing or from mobile development space, it's hard to to keep building high quality content. But I think it's about every B2B SaaS, whatever you build, it's hard to, if it's in tech, it's hard to do it in high quality.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone, for
appreciate it.
coming.